Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the City of Mesa Planning and Zoning Board public hearing for Wednesday, June 12th, 2019. I'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. Just a little housekeeping item. If you're here today to talk about anything on the consent agenda, it's basically anything with an asterisk with the exception of items 4A and 5A, which we've pulled off the consent agenda. You need to fill out a blue card as soon as possible, which are located in the back of the room, and give that to one of our staff members so we can pull that item off the consent agenda. So if you could just give us a few minutes. Looks like Cassidy's gathering some cards. Mr. Chairman, Vice Chairman, help me with the cards.
Absolutely, it looks like a stack's coming.
Yeah, just to make sure.
One of those pins over there.
Sure. There we go. Thank you. I got it. Okay. I'll give you just a double check. Oh, it's item 3A. Yeah. We've got a bunch of these, so let's just double check this. Okay, so that's all 3A. Are there any other, looks like you're filling out some cards? Okay. Okay, last call cards. We have everybody's blue card at this point? Okay, so we're also pulling off item 3A. So 3A, 4A, and 5A are coming off the consent agenda. We'll talk about those after the consent agenda is approved. So Board Member Crockett, would you like to read the consent agenda for us, please?
Yes, Madam Chair, thank you. The consent agenda today consists of the following items. Item 2A, minutes from the May 22nd, 2019 study session and regular public hearing. Item 3A is off of the consent agenda. Item 4A is off of the consent agenda. Item 4B, zoning case ZON 18-00951, District 6, the 6,000 through 6,400 blocks of the South Crisman Road alignment, the 10,000 to 10,600 blocks of East Williamsfield Road, and the 6,000 through 6,400 blocks of South 222nd Street, located south of Williamsfield Road and west of Signal Butte Road. This is a rezone from AG and PC to PC. This request will amend the Pacific Proving Grounds North Community Plan, also known as the Cadence Community Plan, and establish the Avalon Crossing Community Plan. The staff recommendation on this is a continuance to June 26, 2019. Item 4C, ZON 19-00193, District 4, within the 400 block of North Matlock Street, located north of University Drive and west of Stapley Drive. This is a rezone from RM4 to RS6. This request will allow for the development of single residences. The staff recommendation on this is approval with conditions. Item 4D is ZON 19-00201, District 6, within the 9,800 through 10,000 blocks of East Hampton Avenue and within the 1,400 through 1,500 block of South Crisman Road, located at the northwest corner of the US 60 Superstition Freeway and Crisman Road. This is a rezoning from PEP-PAD to PEP-PAD and site plan review. This request will allow for the development of a group commercial center with office and commercial uses. The staff recommendation is approval with conditions. Item 4E is ZON 19-00231, District 1, 445 West 5th Place, Building Number 102, located west of Country Club Drive and north of University Drive, council use permit. This request will establish a council use permit to allow a school in the LC zoning district. The staff recommendation is this has been withdrawn by the applicant. Item 5A has been removed from the consent agenda and will be addressed on the regular agenda. Item 5B, SWC Crisman Road and Hampton Avenue, District 6, within the 9,800 through 10,000 blocks of East Hampton Avenue and within the 1,400 through 1,500 block of South Crisman Road, located at the northwest corner of the US 60 Superstition Freeway and Crisman Road. This is a preliminary plat. The staff recommendation is approval with conditions. Item 5C is Eastmark Row Towns, District 6, within the 9,800 through 9,900 blocks of East Point 22 Boulevard and the 4,600 through 4,700 blocks of South Eastmark Parkway, located north of Ray Road and east of Ellsworth Road. This is a preliminary plat. The staff recommendation is approval with conditions. Item 5D is SEC First and McDonald Phase 2, District 4, within the 0 through 100 blocks of West First Avenue and the 100 block of South McDonald, located south of Main Street and west of Center Street. This is a preliminary plat. The staff recommendation is approval with conditions, and that is the consent agenda, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as read into the record? Is there a second? Okay, everyone please vote.
I'm trying here.
There you go. Okay, the consent agenda passes unanimously. So we'll go ahead then, and we will move on to the regular agenda. Item 3A, this is case ZON 19-00192 in District 6, within the 9,300 block of East Cadence Parkway, located east of Ellsworth Road and south of Ray Road on approximately 33 acres. This request will approve the Development Unit 1 Phase 1 Development Unit Plan within the Pacific Proving Grounds North Community Plan, also known as the Cadence Community Plan. Our staff planner is Leslie Davis. There you are.
Good afternoon, Madam Chairman of the Board. As you stated, this is ZON 19-00192. This is a request in the Cadence community located east of Ellsworth and south of Ray Road. The zoning on the site is planned community. They are requesting for approval for Phase 1 of Development Unit 1 within their Cadence community. The goal is to establish the first phase of development for Unit 1, for that Development Unit 1, and guide future multi-residence and single residence developments in that portion of the development unit. The Gateway, or the Cadence at Gateway Community Plan establishes a process for them that they have to go through to develop the property. The first step that they need to go through for that is to establish the development unit plan, and that's where they come in with the land use plan, design guidelines, and infrastructure plans. However, the community plan does outline the criteria for what they need to submit. It also outlines the types of uses that were anticipated in each of the development units as they came through the process. Development Unit 1 was intended to be the higher density residential and commercial land uses in this community. So what they're coming forward with in Development Unit 1, Phase 1 is the higher density residential component of that. DU1 Phase 2 is anticipated to still be the commercial component as part of the request, and that will come back to you at a future time. Staff has reviewed I'm not sure if they showed the map, they did. You can see the breakdown on the map here as to where DU1 Phase 1 sits on the site, kind of the northwest portion of the property. You come in off of Ellsworth in their primary entry. They've got quite a few homes under construction and developing in DU2, and they're moving forward with DU4, which is the east side of Crisman Road. You've got East Marked Development Unit to the northeast of the DU1 Phase 1 site. The proposal is consistent with the general plan, which is mixed-use community, as well as the Gateway Area Strategic Plan. They did go through their citizen participation process. We did get a couple of phone calls, and I believe we have some citizens that want to speak today, or actually I did get an email is what I had received, but prior to that email, since that email, I haven't gotten anything additional. And so it's consistent with the general plan, the Gateway Strategic Development Plan, the criteria in Chapter 11 of the zoning ordinance for the DU plan, and it is consistent with the community plan and vision for Cadence at Gateway. So with that, I will turn it back over to you. Staff is recommending approval with conditions.
Are there any questions of staff at this time? Okay, thank you. Would the applicant like to make a presentation?
Good afternoon. I'm Susan Demmett with Gamage and Burnham on behalf of Harvard Investments, the developer of Cadence at Gateway Community. I do have a presentation this evening. I think I can do one of two things. I can give you the presentation, which is really a general overview of what the development unit plan is in a little bit more detail than what staff just provided to you, or we could let the public that's here to this afternoon comment, and then I can stand up and we can respond and discuss the comments that are raised from the community that's here this evening. That might be a more efficient way to handle it.
I'm fine if you would like to proceed like that. Is everyone else fine with that?
Sounds
Okay.
good.
Okay,
We'll
that
have you
sounds
come
good.
back up after.
Thank you.
we do. You're welcome. Okay, before we invite the public up, I just want to check with staff and make sure that the timer and the light and everything is on, and whoever's at the podium can see when the timer starts and the light and everything. So why we ask that is because everyone has 3 minutes to give us your comments. And I don't like to be rude, but I have to cut you off at 3 minutes so everyone has time to address the board. So you'll see when you come up, the lights and the timer starting to tick down. So just want to let you know about that. So I've categorized the cards. We've kind of have different cards here. We have some who've said they want to speak and don't, and some who don't indicate a preference. So I just read through them real quick, just to make sure. So the first group here is people indicating that they're opposed, but not indicating they want to speak or not. So Jessica Sanchez, you're opposed. Do you wish to speak? I do not. Okay. That down, thank you. And Brent Vale, opposed to this item but do not wish to speak, or I should ask you, do you wish to speak?
I can speak.
If you'd like to, you can come on up to the podium.
3 minutes for each person?
Yeah,
All right, we weren't sure the rules of the spokesperson could have 10 minutes. We just didn't know.
yeah. If you would like to choose like one spokesperson and kind of combine those minutes so they have a little bit longer time and speak on behalf of the group, that's completely fine.
I was referred to my wife, who's gonna.
Are you the spokeswoman?
Yes.
Okay, come on up to the podium then, please.
I have my notes in my phone. Is that okay if I bring it with?
Sure, come on up. Yeah, bring everything that you need. Let's see. Yeah, I'll ask her when she comes up. If you could just do us a favor and just state your name and address for the record and let us know how many people you're speaking on behalf of.
Okay. My name is Shannon Vale, and you want my address?
Yes, please.
9711 East Timpani Lane in Mesa.
Okay.
I speak on behalf of several. I'm not exactly sure how many, but I know we had at least 19 confirmed, excuse me, that were in agreement when we did like a poll in our group for Cadence. So I just wrote something up here, and then I might have a few more things to add.
Is it okay then if we just kind of give her time that's equated to, is representing that many people? Can I combine the 3 minutes?
He did add it.
Oh, did he? Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't see. I don't have my glasses on.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so you have 10 minutes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. We're here for obvious reasons to express our concerns about the information we've recently been given that was previously never disclosed regarding the zoning and planning for our community in Cadence. Prior to approximately 1 to 2 weeks ago, a very few select people in our development received letters letting them know multifamily housing was to be implemented into a space where we were told an entirely different plan. First, I am thankful that we all talk and were informed through those people about those letters and the signs that were posted about 14 days ago or so. So prior to that 14 days, nobody was ever informed of any of this who just moved into the neighborhood and kind of helped it become a community. So that's where some of the frustration is coming from. Second, I'm extremely disappointed that all of the residents weren't informed, as this is very directly affecting each and every one of us. We were promised a very specific plan for the community, which had nothing to do with any type of housing, multi-family housing or single-family housing in a specific area. And that was that there was going to be basically plans for development of retail space, and they actually used the specific words of comparing it to like a Santan village, which in that space I wasn't exactly expecting like a giant mall or anything, but they made it very clear that within X amount of years they had a plan to have retail space, little shops or like restaurants for like community gatherings. So it was something that the community itself was really looking forward to because it was involving the community and not just like general public, which, general public is great too, but to have something that was going to pull our community together and make it what we thought it was going to be and then have it kind of taken away from us was kind of what's frustrating. So on that, we used that as a huge selling point for us when we purchased in the community. Regardless of the number of how much we spent on our home or whatnot, it was very hard-earned money to us, and it's where we plan to grow our family. We're expecting a baby, and several of us already have kids, and it's somewhere that we intended to stay for many, many years to come. And so, to have something like this pop up and potentially change those plans is like, it's just unforeseen and kind of frustrating. We want to make sure that the neighborhood remains safe. There's been different studies that we've actually researched amongst this before even coming here to make sure that what our thoughts were actually in line with what studies have shown. There are studies that show that if there's more than 4 complexes in one space, so 5 or more, that crime does rise. So that's a big concern with, being families. Mesa is definitely a place that's developing and has a lot of new areas. So the whole East Mesa community, it's something that's new to kind of Arizona in general with, parks and all the green space. And I don't know if you've seen Cadence, but there's a big pool with water slides for kids involvement and families. And that's just something that's kind of new. So it's kind of frustrating to have all these multifamily homes coming in where we know it's going to be hundreds, potentially thousands of people coming into that space where we thought it was going to be more intimate. So that's the concern with the apartments. This is somewhere that when you drive into a community where you picture it to be a family-oriented, close-knit community, family-friendly, you don't picture driving into apartment-lined streets. You picture driving into a community where you do see the grass and you do see, the parks and you see the homes. But to have all this blocked and the views blocked and the whole dynamic of what we were sold on as a community from each and every builder that's been building in there, it's just not what they had told us. So it's just not what any of us envisioned. There's a lot of issues that arise with this, and we're just hoping that we're more than just, a few unfamiliar faces or unheard voices. We hope that you do hear what we're trying to say and, hope that our families do matter to the Mesa, city of Mesa. We talked about safety a little bit. One thing that we were also looking forward to was the fact that, like I talked about earlier too, with the community in general, creating those friendships and creating that community. But when you have like potentially thousands of people who aren't even going to be involved in that part of the community, just kind of, coming in and out, and, they might live there for a year or two, it changes the whole dynamic. So it makes it a little bit more challenging. We do have one entrance to the community as of right now, and that's where they're putting the apartments. It's actually already caused a few car accidents because there's not enough patrol in the area to regulate that amount of traffic in such a small space. So I feel if they want to add these multi-level or multifamily housings, that they should find a better area to do it in. It's not suited for that small crammed space that they're trying to fit it into, right on the drive of where everyone in the neighborhood is driving to work and bringing their kids to school. And now we've got, all these other families trying to come in, and if they're living in these apartments right there, it's gonna congest traffic even worse and potentially cause more, risk for accidents and all those type of things. I feel like it's possible that this has something to do with a money thing. I don't know that for sure, but if it does, I am fairly positive the money will come in time. Retail space will up the economical value of the area, because when you have gathering space for people to come and they enjoy an area and they think it's pretty and they like the atmosphere, they're going to really enjoy coming to that space. But when all they do is come over and stare at a bunch of buildings, they're not going to really enjoy that space. So I feel like that's going to devalue what they're trying to do in the community itself. I feel that because of many of the issues with the traffic being unsafe and people coming in and out of the community so frequently with, potentially only having a year lease or, things like this, that it's unfair to the residents who've invested for their entire future and their families in that community. Without us, there really wouldn't be a community there. We're kind of who's, are making the community, because as the buyers, you need buyers to make the community happen. So I just feel that that's something that should definitely be taken into consideration. We were initially told there was going to be 1,800 homes. That's already been changed to 2,200, and now multifamily homes. So that ups the number significantly again. So again, another disappointment. I feel that the city of Mesa probably is concerned with the growth and keeping it desirable and all these things. When people work in an area like Phoenix, obviously there's commutes involved. When you live in a place like the East Valley and you work towards central Phoenix and you all of a sudden have thousands and thousands of people, not to mention the apartments that are being put where they're wanting to put them, there's actually a whole nother section, less than a mile, where they're building a lot of other apartments that they're trying to zone for, townhomes, things like that. So it's gonna make the commute undesirable, and I feel that that will affect the community as well. So my hope is that Mesa, Eastmark, East Side, all of that is gonna continue to rise and grow rather than start to grow and then all of a sudden fall because it can't handle, the traffic or all of that. I think I mentioned earlier, but statistics do prove that areas that are developed like this, there are rising crime. So that's a huge concern for me. So I've read 2 different studies that were conducted by different areas, different universities in different cities and states, and they show significant favor of that, of the crime rising with these types of developments. And that's just, for me, again, as a mom, is very concerning. When you have a luxury apartment, how long does it stay luxury? I mean, we've all seen Mark Taylor rise and fall a million times. And so I just don't want that to happen again and have it be all these residents that are coming in and now they don't have access to our amenities, so they're jumping the fence, or, they're coming in and tearing things up, or, you never know. We came from a community that was really nice, and that's exactly what happened. There was people that lived in parts of the community that didn't have access, that wanted access, they didn't have it, hence the multifamily homes. They were supposed to have their own pool, and they didn't want to use their own pool. They wanted to use the bigger, nicer pool by the houses. So they would jump the fence and they would vandalize things. And that was a big issue, because then we lost our ability to even use it. And I don't want my kids around a bunch of vandalism and, essentially intoxicated teenagers who are vandalizing and things like that. So that is something that we've seen first, in our personal space. So that's pretty much all I have.
That's perfect timing, Mrs. Vale. Thank you for all of your comments. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay. There's a few other cards. Mrs. Vale might have spoken on your behalf, but I'm going to call them just in case. Tamara, is it? Tamara, I'm sorry. Tamara, do you wish to speak? Okay. How about Sarah Cherry?
I'll go.
Okay.
She did a great job representing all of us. I'm just going to reiterate a few of the points that she did.
If you could just for the record, state your name and address.
Yeah,
and
my
then
name
you'll
is
have 3
Sarah
minutes.
Cherry. My address is 9635 East Talon Avenue, Mesa, Arizona 85212. Again, reiterating points that she has made. One major concern is the appearance of the neighborhood. Cadence was sold to us because of the beautiful appearance of the neighborhood. The entryway is gorgeous. The residents are paying monthly for the landscaping. And now with our HOA dues, and now we're having that told that we're going to be paying for apartments instead. No, we're not paying for them. I excuse that, but we are paying for the landscaping in that area that apartments are now going into. I would not have purchased. My husband and I were extremely upset when we heard about high residential housing in this area because we would not have purchased our home had we known this. I know several of my neighbors that are here today feel the exact same way. A lot of our neighbors were unable to be here because it's at 4 p.m. on a work day as well. I had to leave work early myself to be here, pay time off for that. Because it's so important to us. Traffic in and out of the neighborhood, as she mentioned, I don't know how many of you have actually been to Cadence. There's 2 lanes going in, 2 lanes going out, and that is it. It is right in front of the 24 exit. Whenever I go to work in the morning and I exit our neighborhood, I have a tough time already getting out of the neighborhood because traffic is through our intersection on Ellsworth. So I have a tough time already. I can't imagine putting that many housing up front. This is also a false promise. If you look at the Cadence website right now today, all of us were sold on a map that you can see on the Cadence website right now today of what the amenities are going to be and where things were going to be, and this was not on there. It was never told to us. We wouldn't be here today because we wouldn't have been homeowners in Cadence if that was the case. Housing prices. Who wants to buy a home, again, in a neighborhood that has apartments at the front of it? Our housing prices are going to fall. This is a huge concern because we put a lot of time and a lot of money into building these homes. Traffic on Ellsworth, already mentioned that, and so did honestly amenities and protecting them, even if these apartments have their own amenities, which I heard that they potentially will already, honestly, are they really going to stay away from the Cadence beautiful pools and water slides and game areas and tennis courts and basketball courts that we pay to upkeep when they're right there in our neighborhood, even if they have their own amenities? And that was it. Shannon, again, covered everything else, and I have 20 seconds left.
Thank you. Okay. How about Lisa Stewart? You opposed the item, but you do not wish to speak. Just want to make sure that's still the case. Okay, thank you. Just a few more here. Let's see. Kevin? Yes. You are opposed to this item, but you didn't indicate if you wish to speak or not. Okay. And how about Amber Prast? Opposed to this item, didn't indicate if you wanted to speak or not?
I can speak.
Come on up to the podium if you could, please, and just tell us your name and your address for the record, please.
My name is Amber Prast, address 9656 East Timpani Lane. Those 2 lovely ladies addressed a lot of our issues. As they both mentioned to the entrance, we also have to keep in mind Silver Valley Elementary is also part of our neighborhood. So you have to keep in mind the increased traffic, not only to the school area. Again, I don't know how many people have been out there, but there's also an exit and an entrance out on Crimson. So I know a lot of residents from East Market and Bellevue and neighboring communities are going to be using Crimson Road as well, but there's also a lot that are going to be coming right off Ellsworth. The school is going to increase traffic. You're talking about high density residential being close to an elementary school, And as Shannon had mentioned, the increased crime rates, no one with high residential communities do up the crime rate. I myself also came from luxury apartments, and they had 4 gorgeous pools on site, you know, amenities for children. And we had vandalism daily. It was stuff that we had ended up paying for. And the pools would be damaged, umbrellas would be in the pools, chairs would be broken, thrown all over the playground equipment for the kids. They ended up taking amenities away because of the vandalism, and we were paying a premium in rent. And what the issue comes to is I have 2 children, and we were in a 3-bedroom unit. So you pay for a 3-bedroom unit, but what happens is you get, let's say, 3 people that don't have families that kind of pool together to pay for a 3-bedroom unit. So your luxury apartments then turn into people that aren't as invested because they can afford a luxury place, but then they don't care about what happens beyond that. It is a huge concern on the traffic, the crime, and frankly, it just wasn't something that we were told about when we purchased. Again, another family that would not have purchased a single family residence in Cadence had we known apartments were going in at the front of our entrance. In addition to that, like Sarah had touched on, we pay for the landscaping. As it stands, they just finished the landscaping a month ago, this last month, and there are no entrances, no exits, no driveways currently in place to even have retail or an apartment complex, so stuff would have to be ripped out. Stuff would have to be moved, stuff would have to be adjusted. Not only in addition to that, but I'm also speaking on behalf of Estates at Eastmark, that is a neighboring community behind us on the north side. A lot of those people are in a gated community. Sorry.
That's okay.
No.
Sorry to cut you off, but
That's all right.
I appreciate your comments.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks a lot. Robert Mason III, you wish to speak, but you don't indicate if you're in favor or you're opposed.
Yes, I'd like to speak.
Okay, come on up, please, and state your name and address for the record, please.
My name's Robert Mason, 9518 East Thornbush Avenue, Mesa. So the ladies that have come up and spoken so far, I'm against this, learning today that it was high-density residence. The letter said that there was commercial possibilities and stuff like that. So we didn't know what it was about or exactly what was going to go in there. So hearing today that it is high-density residence, me and my wife are against it. We had just bought, we closed at the end of April and just moved here mid-May. We came out here on a visit in March from Ohio because I was getting moved out here for work to purchase. And when we were buying it, they were even telling me it was all going to be commercial. And the big selling point is because I'm right on that corner of Thornbush. My next door neighbor will be the apartments. So they sold me on the house that I bought has a nice view of the mountains and everything. And even with housing there, I'd still be able to see it. But if you put 4 or 5 story apartments right there, I'd lose that entire selling feature of the house that they sold me on. So I'm not gonna keep beating the dead horse of the safety and the traffic, which is a very valid point and one of the biggest points that I have because I drive out that way to go to work. If I get stuck behind traffic waiting 15, 20 minutes, that's just more time out of my day, which I purposely bought there to be 15 minutes from work. So that's all I have.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much. I appreciate it. So the last card is from Lisa Mason. You do not wish to speak? No. Oh, you were together. Yeah. Sorry about that. Okay, so that's all of the blue cards we have. So I'm going to go ahead and close the public comment section of the hearing. We'll invite the applicant back up, please, to respond to those comments.
All right. Thank you for the opportunity to speak, and thank you to the residents that are here for speaking tonight. Tim Brislin from Harvard Investments is here with me this evening, and we're happy to speak with folks after the hearing tonight. I think we're also going to talk about hosting an informational meeting with the homeowners association in the near future to sort of educate them about the future plans for Cadence. One thing I think we should make clear, I want to make clear, is that the application before you tonight is for a development unit plan for phase 1 of development unit 1. It's effectively a design guideline document that will guide any potential future development within that portion of the project, whether it's commercial, residential, single family or residential, multifamily. The land uses that are allowed within development unit 1 were approved with the community plan, which was approved in September of 2012. Those land uses have been approved and are allowed by right since 2012. We do not have any specific development proposals on the table today. There is nothing that has been submitted for specific site plans, preliminary plats, development proposals, because the development unit plan is the next step for us in that process. The Cadence Community Plan, which is the regulatory zoning document, that's again what was approved in 2012. That established the framework for Cadence going forward. I will say that that document does talk about the diverse land uses, including the diverse types of housing that were anticipated, are at the core of the Cadence concept. So these types of land uses have always been proposed, but the development unit plan that you have for you today doesn't approve a multifamily project. It doesn't specifically propose a multifamily project. It simply sets forward a set of site planning and design guidelines for all of the uses that are allowed in that portion of the community. We will move forward into the development process for specific projects once this is approved. I would expect in the coming months that we will start to process those applications, but we don't have anything to specifically discuss today. I can answer all kinds of questions about the development unit plan itself, but not about specific development proposals, because we do not have anything on the table for you today.
Just a quick question. So for those future developments within this development, will that come before us as far as a site plan review, or will we see that?
So it depends on the type of development. And again, development unit 1 allows commercial, multifamily residential, and single family residential development. So if it were considered a single family proposal, it would follow the normal site plan, preliminary plat, subdivision plat process. Multifamily proposals, if it were a higher intensity multifamily proposal, and I don't remember the criteria off the top of my head, but I think if it's a 4-story or greater project, then it does come back through Planning and Zoning Board through a public hearing process. If it's a lower intensity project, I believe that's a administrative review process through staff, but there are notification requirements for all of these applications. And it's the same with the commercial development as well. It depends on the intensity as to whether it would be a Planning and Zoning Board hearing or a staff approval process.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone have any questions for the applicant right now? Board Member Sarkisian.
My question on going through it, and they're talking about, because the topic right now is multifamily. It mentions in here that the section 7.8 of the community plan designates the development standards, I'm guessing height and et cetera, for multifamily or whatever.
It does.
And that was the plan that was approved in
2012.
Well, correct.
Correct.
Okay.
It
Yeah, I
was.
didn't see those. So this is more like you're saying, the architecture, the
right.
design,
The
landscaping.
regulatory piece of Cadence was approved in 2012 with the community plan. That includes the intensity, the land uses, density, development standards, so setbacks, height, all of those things. Those are the regulatory standards are in that community plan. This is more of a policy document with design guidelines and sort of taking the design concept for Cadence to the next level, but again, it's not specific to any development proposal itself. So it includes pedestrian network requirements. It talks about connectivity. There are things in there about parks and open spaces. We have architectural guidelines for all types of uses. Those are the guidelines that are in the document before you today.
Any other questions?
And my question is, was this document available to these folks that purchased their homes? The overall kind of a concept showing the possibilities that could go in these other phases?
The community plan itself is that's been a public document for the last 7 years. It's been on the City of Mesa's
Right.
Pacific Proving Ground Community Plan page. I do know it is referenced in the subdivision public report and probably the master disclosure document for Cadence, because again, that was the only regulatory document in place at the time, before we moved into these, subsequent planning processes. And so that document has been fairly widely public available. It's a big document. I mean, I would not expect, most of the general public to actually try to absorb it and read it. It's several hundred pages long, but that document has been out there and is available.
I guess that was a question that was probably out there, but unless you know to look for it, it's probably not widely advertised. I mean, for these folks, sounds like these folks bought their houses not understanding that.
There's a plan.
And I certainly, cannot make any representations at all about the, sales teams from the builders and what was represented or not represented. I mean, I can just, I can tell you what I know as Harvard's representative and the information that we've made available through the processes over the years.
Any other, Board Member Crockett?
I mean, do you have a question? I was going to say, I do want to
Go ahead
reiterate.
and finish.
I do want to reiterate that we will host a community meeting through the Homeowners Association to talk to the residents about what the future plans are before we come back with something specific, so that we can have that conversation and explain what was approved, what will be coming forward. We can talk about people's concerns, before we bring a proposal back.
And it doesn't appear that there was any community outreach prior to May the 29th, is that right, on this item?
No, the public notification letter that was sent was the required public notification for this project, for the development unit plan itself, and that's prescribed in the community plan. There are specific notification requirements for each type of application that we process in Cadence, and so we followed the requirements for that process.
And was that, I think the letter was mailed 14 days ago today. Was that the minimum period of time that you have to provide notice?
I believe so. We delivered those letters to staff. They're actually mailed by staff. So we provide the letters to staff. They mail them for the 14-day notification period. There are also signs posted on the site about that same time.
Okay. My concern is just notice to the neighbors in the area and whether it's pretty short turnaround to digest what's being proposed here and be here at a meeting at 4 p.m. on a workday to talk about this. So I'm concerned about the notice. I'm also concerned about what may be, kind of represented out there in the developments to these homeowners about what was going to happen on that property. And I'd actually like to know a little bit more about that if it's possible.
And again, we're happy to meet with the residents going forward and talk to them more specifically about what's planned for the future of Cadence. I mean, what's before you tonight is not changing any of the approved land uses, anything that's permitted or not permitted within the community. We're moving through that next step in the design process. After this is approved, we will be in a position to come forward with specific development proposals and have that more specific conversation. There's not a whole lot else I can say about apartments or not apartments at this point in time.
And I know you made the offer to meet with these folks. Is it possible for them to get on a list so that they'll get notice, to the extent they didn't get notice through the mailing process, that they could get notice of this
Sure.
public meeting?
Absolutely. We typically, if someone has submitted it like an email, so I've gotten a couple phone calls at the office, but really other than today, that was all that we had received. We will take anyone's email addresses if they've reached out via phone, if they submitted a card here this evening. We will add all of those folks to our notification lists. And so when we move forward, in addition to the minimum requirement list, that's how we build those notification lists.
Sorry. And do you have a sense for when that public meeting might occur?
No, I don't. I think we'll want to coordinate with Harvard and the community itself. We're moving into summer, and so we want to be respectful of people's summer schedules, but we will do that before we move forward with specific development proposals.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome, Board Member Allen.
And I guess my question is more for Leslie over here. So Leslie, if this is just part of the process moving forward, right, part of this plan, do these folks still have the opportunity, not only to us, but have input whether or not, apartments are located on a specific area adjacent to something else? I mean, how much really influence is what I'm asking? How much influence is still available? If you understood my question, it's kind of convoluted, sorry.
Madam Chair, Board Member Allen, we haven't seen any specific plans as to what's going to come in. When they do, we'll be evaluating appropriate transitions and those types of things, but they are allowed uses in that development unit. So we'll use the community plan and the development unit plan to help guide decisions as to what's appropriate. And we would certainly pay attention to the fact that we need appropriate transitions between single family and multifamily and so on. And make sure that we're maintaining the character of what was identified and promised through the community plan, which does provide a lot of those things.
Sorry, I don't understand.
That's okay. We've already, we'll explain that. We've got to kind of close the public section of it. But yeah, if you want to continue your thought there.
So I don't have a specific answer for you at this time, but we will be evaluating it as a planning staff and working with the developer to make sure that we're providing something that is consistent with what's been previously approved as far as the community plan and the development unit
And
plan.
I guess that was the point I was trying to make. I wanted to make sure that it wasn't exclusive, that these folks still wouldn't have the opportunity to provide input and maybe a collaboration on, even maybe they because of selling points, you never know what somebody's sold, but maybe at least they still have some opportunity to have some say and to make the best of it. Not sold.
I agree, and I will say that one of the components in the development unit plan, as far as the design guidelines, and I think we have a discussion in each of the sections in there, it does talk about single-family residential, multifamily residential, and commercial, is there are design guidelines that speak to appropriate transitions. And again, and that's not a defined, like, it's not a hard and fast rule, like you have to do this or that. I mean, so that does provide that opportunity to work with staff to determine how do you appropriately buffer from one density of development to another and things like that. So that's in the plan that you have before you tonight.
Okay, thank
Board
you.
Member Sarkisian.
Just to clarify, the first house I purchased was in another large master plan power ranch when it was first starting. And so it's a really difficult situation with large master plans, with what gets conveyed and when things are sold, because you have less control over a smaller subdivision when you have direct access to your buyer. With Power Ranch, I would assume this is going to be the same way. There will be an architectural review committee or some sort for Cadence that the developer controls.
Correct. There is an architectural committee that's established, and there's a member of City of Mesa staff that sits on that committee with the private consultants as well. So that's a collaborative process. They use the development unit plan to approve all, down to home product.
And whatever goes in this multifamily would be under those still review of that committee?
Correct. It would still, all development within Cadence goes through the architectural review process.
So whenever, if it ever does switch over to homeowner control, the homeowner review, the committee would also review any changes
right.
to
When it would transition to the homeowners association, the seats on the architectural review committee would transition. I'm sure that's covered in the CC&Rs to residents within the community.
Okay, so my point is that I was on that review committee on the board while I was at Power Ranch. But just on how sometimes things of those go, as a homeowner, we still had control over guidelines at the multifamily.
So let me make a clarification. All development within Cadence will go through the architectural review committee, as I mentioned. The residential homeowners association within Cadence will always be maintained separate from the commercial, or if there are multifamily portions of the community, they will not be a part of the residential homeowners association. They will be distinct and separate. But they will, all that development will go through the architectural control process. There were a couple comments made about landscaping, and currently the residents are correct. The homeowners association is paying for the maintenance of all the landscaping through Cadence, including in the commercial portion at the front. As the commercial portions in Development Unit 1 are developed, there is a payback agreement in place, so the homeowners association will be reimbursed by whether it's multifamily or commercial users for a proportionate share of those landscape costs, so they will not have the full burden of that going forward.
Will they then separate and have controls? I mean, will then the multifamily, then after that, they pay back, will then they pay into it or be their separate HOA, kind of separate?
I think it will be separate, and again, we don't have specific development projects at this time. You know, we're still kind of working on the very
Yeah.
initial ideas for what commercial development could, so that structure has just not been determined.
Either way has its benefits, because I find that if you keep it with the single-family residential, then the single-family residential has control over design and painting. If you separate it, then the multifamily has less access to the single-family amenity pieces, which also becomes a problem because the single-family doesn't want the multifamily coming over, but you can't have it both ways, so it's like pick which one you want, and typically it's better to have the multifamily has their own pool, their own facilities, and you separate it so that we don't give keys to everybody.
And that's what we would expect. But nothing in DU1 will be a part of the homeowners association that for the single-family residential portion of the community.
And then I'm assuming also with design guidelines probably written in Cadence or with staff, like she mentioned, the transition, there would be a step back from the single-family border.
There are requirements, there are regulatory requirements in the community plan. They are, then we have the additional design guideline requirements in the development unit plan before you tonight that talk about transitioning and buffering. I can't recite those.
Right, but it's not just going to be a 4-story apartment right next to you, obviously.
No, I mean, that would be a concern as far as a transition. And so we'll work through those design components when we have a specific development project to talk about.
Any other questions for the applicant?
I have a question. I think someone mentioned the airport and airport noise maybe in the previous meeting. I'm just curious about it. There's just a very little, I think there's one page about it here. Is this sitting outside of the noise danger zone?
It's outside the danger zone for sure. Right. It's outside the runway protection zone, which is truly the danger zone. We're outside of that. And Cadence itself, and again, this was addressed in a lot more detail in the community plan, which is the large zoning document. Cadence sits within what almost, if you look at the flight patterns for a Gateway Airport, there's kind of a hole in the donut.
Yeah.
We're outside of those flight limitations, which is why you have residential development, single-family residential development in particular, that's allowed within Cadence because we're outside of those contours.
Okay. Yeah, I bring that up because I read more and more the airport in Scottsdale, the neighbors are complaining more and more and more, and it's kind of trapping that airport, and I want to make sure that we do not do that here in Mesa.
No, and we worked very, very closely with Gateway Airport when this project was it was a 2-year process prior to it being approved in 2012, and that included a lot of work with the airport.
Has there been any communication with them recently? Because I know they've been expanding and things have been changing.
So they've been a part of the notification process as we've moved forward. I can't tell you if there have been any specific meetings. We had a lot of conversations with the airport last fall when SRP was doing its transmission line siting, and they were aware at that time of the status of the development and how it was moving forward.
Okay.
All right, unless there's no more, you have a question for the applicant?
Not necessarily a question for the applicant. Could be good to have her up here just for clarification, but I just noticed a lot of the neighbors are kind of questioning what they're hearing a little bit, and I just wanted to make sure that everyone's clear that we're not voting on anything tonight that relates to the current approved land use for this piece of property, correct? The use and the multifamily stuff, that's been in place for years.
That's been in place since 2012. You are not voting on a specific land use or site plan or development proposal for any specific land use. That is not on the table this evening.
Okay, just making sure that hopefully everyone could hear that and just know that more development standard type, architectural type items for.
Correct.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And then also for clarification that these folks will be informed and included in the next phase as you get specific development plans. Just clarifying that.
Yes, we will. We definitely will make that commitment, and we will go meet with the homeowners association as a group as well.
Thank you.
That would be good. Okay, well, thank you for.
And I will stay after the meeting this evening.
That would be great.
And happy to chat with folks outside or in the lobby. So.
Okay, thank you.
And Madam Chair, can I just make a quick comment? This isn't really for the applicant, but just when I talk to members of the public, I like to let them know when those white zoning signs go up in the neighborhood, you need to pull over in your car and get out and read them, or when you're walking the dog, and you need to do it sooner rather than later, or when you get something in the mail and you're not exactly sure what it is, it's one of these letters, it's important to read them so that you can have that input into the process early on, so that you're aware of what's happening in your neighborhood.
Yeah, we all moved in, brand new neighborhood.
Yeah, I was going to say, in response to your comment, it can be difficult in this case, considering it's been, 6 or 7 years. And we understand that discrepancy, but hopefully, it sounds like the applicant, when we're done here, will have some time to chat with any questions, further questions for the neighbors, which we hope.
All right, so let's go ahead and just close the public comment section. And is there anyone who'd like to make a motion on this item?
I'll move to approve item 3A, ZON 19-00192, District 6, within the 9300 block of East Cadence Parkway, located east of Ellsworth Road and south of Ray Road. This request will approve the Development Unit 1, Phase 1 Development Unit Plan within the Pacific Proving Grounds North Community Plan, also known as Cadence Gateway Cadence Community Plan, with the staff recommendation of approval with conditions.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, everyone please vote. Okay, the item passes unanimously. Now we'll move on to item 4A, and we'll combine it with item 5A, since that's the related plat.
And Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
I need to recuse myself from this item, so I'm going to step down into the audience.
Thank you very much. Okay, so item 4A is case ZON 18-00067.
Madam Chair, Board
and-
Member Crockett, if you could, before you recuse yourself, if you could state on the record the reason why you're, if you have a conflict of interest and what the conflict is on this item.
Thank you. This item came up in a past meeting, and I recused myself then. One of the owners of this project is either a former client or a current client, I guess, depending on who you talk to. But anyway, that's the reason for recusing myself.
All right, okay, we'll go back and we'll start over. Item 4A is case ZON 18-00067, District 6, within the 9500 through 9800 blocks of East Hampton Avenue, located north of the US 60 Superstition Freeway, west of Crisman, on approximately 33 acres. The request is a rezoning from NCBIZ, NCPAD, and PEP-PAD CUP to RM2 PAD and a site plan review to allow for the development of a single residence subdivision. The staff planner is Mr. Baum.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. As you mentioned, this is ZON 18-00067. It is approximately 33 acres. We're located west of Crisman Road on the north side of the 60. The site is surrounded on the north by multifamily residential, and to the west is also residential. East of the property, you saw that earlier on your agenda, is developing commercially. The request is a rezoning from NCBIZ, NCPAD, and planned employment park with the planned area development and a cancel use permit to RM2 with a site plan review. And it would allow for the development of a single residence subdivision. The applicant provided the site plan here on the presentation. They're requesting 212 units. There will be duplex units, 3 different lot sizes. They are requesting some developments, some deviations to the development standards as part of the PAD request. In exchange for those deviations, the applicant has to essentially give something to the city in exchange to enhance some other portion of the product. What they're doing here is providing enhanced open space. There's a large central amenity, open space amenity, and 2 smaller amenity areas on the east and the west of the property that have activated open space, so a tot lot on the east and a soccer field on the west. There are also trails that run from Hampton south to the open space areas within the development. The general plan designation, when you saw this last year, was employment. And since then, the City Council has approved a general plan amendment to neighborhood suburban, which does support the RM2 zoning. As I mentioned previously, they are requesting a number of deviations to accommodate this development through the planned area development overlay. There are reductions to setbacks and minimum lot area notably. There are also a tweak to the tandem garage dimensions. Citizen participation started last year when it came through the general plan amendment. They mailed letters to property owners within 1,000 feet of the property, held a neighborhood meeting last February that 6 neighbors attended. In the intervening time, the plan has changed, so the applicant mailed new notification letters last month informing neighbors of the change in the development. In conclusion, this does conform with the general plan. It also conforms with the zoning ordinance, Chapter 22 for planned area developments, and staff is recommending approval with conditions, and I would be happy to answer any questions the board might have.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for staff? No? Okay, with the applicant, sorry, go ahead, Todd.
Can you I'm trying to just look up, when this came before us before, can you remind me what we decided?
Sure, Madam Chair, Board Member Boyle. So the previous iteration of the development was much different. It had the large cluster units on the south side of the property against the 60 and some single-family detached in the remainder of the subdivision. That one had a few issues with solid waste, transportation, things like that. What you're seeing today is essentially a complete redesign from the previous version.
And did we not approve it the last time, or did we?
So that request also had a general plan amendment with it. That went forward to council, who approved it. So now we're back talking about the zoning for that specific general plan designation.
So
But for clarification, we recommended denial.
We
on that.
recommend, okay, that's what I thought. I'm just trying to remember what
Some
happened.
of us did.
Some of us, yeah.
Some of us.
Okay.
Chair Dalkey, board members.
It was done, okay.
The vote last time was you voted, recommended denial on the general plan amendment, therefore you recommended denial on the zoning request also.
But then it went to city council and they approved it.
They approved the general plan amendment and referred the site plan back to the planning and zoning.
Okay.
All clear, okay. Any other questions of Mr. Ballmer at this time? Okay, would the applicant like to make a presentation?
Madam Chair, members of the board, Reese Anderson, 1744 South Val Vista, number 217 here in Mesa. Thank you again for the opportunity. I'll be as quick as you can. We spent a lot of time on the first item, and I'll go as quickly as possible. I'm always incompetent at getting this loaded. My friends from the AV will come down soon.
He's
I'm clicking the mouse, but I've seemed to be incompetent once again. I'm clicking on the mouse, my friend. You got it. Now I know the key to unlock. I got his password now.
Nope.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, we don't want to talk about cadence. We had enough of, with all due respect to our friend Susan. Nope, not that one, sir. We don't want to talk about that one.
We did the other one.
Yeah, that one right there. Very good, thank you. There we go. I think we're finally set, Madam Chair. Is this microphone appropriately? To confirm what Staff Member Ellsworth said to you, this case was here before you. We had an entirely different general plan then, didn't we, Board Member Allen? Entirely different. And that case, then, this board recommended 3-2 to go up to the City Council. And we had a lot of discussion that night focused on the general plan. And not a lot about the site plan. But because of your recommendation on the general plan, you recommended denial on the site plan. That went up to the council. The council approved the change in the general plan and referred it back to here. Since then, we've spent a lot of time looking at market conditions, the area around us, carefully looking at things. And as Evan Ballmer stated, this has been largely a complete redesign. Now, there's some things that are fixed. For example, we've always promised and been told and worked carefully with staff and others that that main entrance should line up directly with that entrance to the single-story apartments just to our north. That was a critical piece in overall design, as well as a western entrance. So those things kind of stayed. And with that, things domino, such as this central amenity area. But without belaboring the point, I heard some of the concerns in the study session below. And so I'll go through a couple of these slides. I'll try to go quickly, and I won't, if a slide piques your interest, would you please stop me? And if it doesn't, I'll just go through them and try to focus on the concerns and questions I had. Would that be okay, board members? Okay.
Yes.
So again, the location, right? Let's not worry about that. That's the current general plan today. It's a neighborhood. Forgive me for a second. I want to also recognize who's with me here today. Hud Hassel, a principal with Bellaflor Communities, and Dave Mazza. Also our engineer, Daniel Gonzalez with Vertex, and Mark Panza with Anderson Barron. While not here earlier tonight were the representatives from Virtua, who did the commercial just to the east, which you approved on your consent. They've given me permission to say that we're here with their approval and support. Also with support is from Brendan Ray and Bruce Dunn, that RM2 piece you see on your screen, that was approved again a couple years ago. That's the single-story apartments. And then also you have in your staff report a letter from the HOA of Muirfield, which is the RM2 further to our west and north. And again, we're here with their support, and we've been in constant contact with them throughout the process. Again, so this slide just kind of shows those uses that are around there. I know the aerial's a little outdated, but that's the technology we deal with. Just zooming in. Now this question, I don't remember if it might have been board member Villanueva Saucedo, apologies, or board member Allen, asked about density. I just want you to look carefully at this and look at them and make a comparison. Of everything around us, we're lower. To me, that's quite telling, right? So when you start to say, what's an appropriate land use for this site? We're surrounded by RM2 uses or RM3 in some instances. We're next to the freeway. RM2 seems to be a great district to go here. And we're less than everyone else. And I can show you a slide later, but as far as open space goes, by my math, just quickly on my calculator below, we're 7.4 times what's required, or 740% more. So I think the developer's done an excellent job of providing enhanced, very enhanced amenities here, and we can look at them in more detail also. Any questions on this slide? Again, here's the site plan. It is duplex units. I understand that those are a bit unique. They're also unique in that the Mesa zoning ordinance calls out a phrase, single residence attached, and that phrase only appears in the multifamily districts. But yet the development standards given there aren't cohesive or really made for single residence attached. So you start to say, well, why have you got this deviation, Reese, or that deviation? Well, that's because the code just doesn't quite recognize single residence attached. Yet, we've looked at the closest districts to us, like an RSL, and as you can see here, your staff is recommending approval with those deviations that we've provided. Again, with a very enhanced open space. Like I said, almost 7.5 times more than what's required. This is just a focus on the west side. You can see there's soccer goal. That central amenity, track C, also has an outdoor barbecue area. You can see the interconnection between the neighborhoods, so you can go from north to south easily. On the left side, you see that channel coming through. That's an off-site stormwater channel that we're required to work with, and we've tried to enhance it. As the cliche goes, lemonade out of lemons. This is the central amenity area. At the bottom, you can see a half-court basketball court, one that I would appreciate playing on. I don't do full court anymore. Pickleball, volleyball, nice pool and amenity area, fitness center. This is the east side, again with the tot lot, another nice open space. And again, you can see the interconnectivity there, along with the wider landscape caps at the end of the blocks. It's the central gate coming down. Some nice palm trees there. It's meant to be a very inviting, welcoming entry, one that we're proud to build, and also one that we want our residents to say, I'm proud that I live here. These are the gate designs and wall designs. This is the western entrance. Again, you see the gates. Focusing again on these amenities. Again, please stop me if I go too quick. And on the west side, just zooming in so you can get a little bit better grasp. It's a larger site, so just want you to see some of those. This is the western side, or I'm sorry, eastern, my apologies. Landscaping plan. Parking. I know a concern a lot of times when we get into a multifamily category is parking. Here, if you look at it, just draw your attention to the total parking line. 424 required, 910. So more than double, more than double. And that's on purpose. Now, I know there was a comment below made about single-loaded streets, parking only on one side, but I want to call out why that's the case. And look carefully up there at lots 25 through 34. North side, just right below Hampton. That's only a single-loaded street. So in our minds, it was appropriate to say, let's only have parking on one side and take some of that space and put it into rear yards. We thought it would be better used there. It's just not necessary to have parking on both sides. And while we're focused on that, we also want to point out how that pulling lots 25 through 34 back gives you a better streetscape along Hampton because you don't have a solid straight wall. You get some undulation as you come down Hampton. Then again, look at the park areas where there's a park and you have a single-loaded street. Again, not houses on both sides. Again, we thought it would be better to just take some of that space. Let's put it into the parks. Let's put it in the rear yards. But everywhere else, there is houses on both sides. There's parking on the street on both sides. Now, I think we could all agree that's a bit rare these days. We think it's an amenity, an important one to keeping the quality of this community, right? When I have a birthday party for my kids, I want to be able to park close by my home. These are the elevations, again, conceptual nature, and you see a condition in your staff report about us continuing to work with the staff on having the planning director approve them. And we are very comfortable. In fact, we're comfortable with all of the conditions of approval. I have no problem with them all. But I want to just point out the concept here, which is keeping those garages there in the center and trying to make it look like you just have one home. So we're not having this dominated garage front. Some of the others. Again, some of the others. And I know if I went too quick.
Reese, can I interrupt?
Yeah, would you like me to go back, board member?
Well, I just
You tell me when to stop.
Just so I understand, like, right there and to the next one. So the lot line is going to cut right down the middle of these houses? Is that what we're?
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct. And again, using that phrase, single residence attached or duplex, synonyms in this case.
Right, okay. I just
You would own your own lot. You would own your home on it. You would have a shared wall, right? And you can see these units here have a two-car garage. Okay? Now, again, I hope didn't cause you any concern, but our Mesa has their standard garage depth and width, right? We're all aware of that, and I feel that's an issue that this board has thought about a lot. Well, the garage is the standard garage. There's no change. But in the tandem ones, we've made them a little bit wider, but a little bit deeper, but there's more square feet. I think that's fully appropriate, fully appropriate. I don't know that anyone cares really about the wall plan. I'm going to go quickly. To the wall plan? Oh, my goodness. The one slide I thought no one would even.
Well, it was a discussion at the last one. We were talking about ADOT, the property to the south. And so I just was curious to see that you wanted to make sure you were fencing that and how it was being done. So.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I can tell you that with the letters that we just sent out, I've gotten 2 emails back from ADOT who said, we have no comment, no concern. Okay. And we're working carefully with them. In fact, I'm pleased to report to you that our plans have been preliminary approved with Mesa and are now under review for ADOT to extend the sewer from the southwest corner of this site all the way to Ellsworth. I think HUD, that was almost 3,000 feet, 27, 28, somewhere in there. It's an extraordinary cost. It's an extraordinary effort by this developer, but we are underway on those plans now to make sure this is a sewer-fed. Again, back to that quality, right? I don't know if we talked about it last time of the potential for a pump station.
We did. That was my question too. So the pump station
is
eliminated. Okay.
It's absolutely gone. Again, a part of us looking at this saying, what's best for the long term, right? We all use that word sustainability. What's best for the long term? And so I'm pleased to say here that, we're going to do it. Just, you might find this interesting, Board Member Brown, just from your experience. Right to the west of us is that big channel that comes in. We have to bore underneath that. And the rest of it, though, we're able to do through a ditch, but that's going to be expensive.
Can
Yeah.
I ask, just because it seems weird, on the lower left-hand side, there's
Yes.
that, it looks like there's a tract that's fenced off internally from the community?
Yeah, let me back up. I think I have a slide that may help.
Okay.
But this one here, Board
Yeah.
Member Sarkeesian,
Yes.
you see it there, Tract H, is that where you're focused? Yep. So that's where a dog park will be,
Gotcha, okay.
okay?
Everybody wants one.
They're an important amenity these days, absolutely. Yep.
Yep.
Other questions?
No, that answered my question, because I know we had concerns about that, and then that was one of the neighbors that was in support of you guys as well, was concerned about transients that are in the area, and things like that.
Well, you may recall from last time, Clint Gum was here, who's the president of HOA, who I referred to just by title earlier, supporting us. And Mr. Gum, of course, spoke passionately about the issues they have with transients along that area. I'm just pleased as can be that this is cleaning it up. I'm also pleased with what HUD and the developer and Bella Flor has done today out there as far as cleaning up debris, removing it from the site, and trying to keep this a little safer area. Okay? We could spend a lot of time here, but I think staff member Ellsworth, Tom Ellsworth, did a great job of explaining this kind of unique nuance between this minimum lot size, where we say, oh, hey, it needs to be 7,200, but that doesn't quite fit for single residence attached. But when you get down to doing apples to apples comparison, it's 2,900. So we're actually above what's required. But I really want to draw your attention back down to that total open space. Again, about 1 acre required. What we're 7.2 acres, again, 140%. And in that minimum open space, just one line above it, where we have 1 bed or 2 bedrooms and 3s, you can see there where we're only 100 feet required, we've got 567. Now, you may, again, that only accounts that space where there's the certain dimensions, right? You can't count every bit of square footage because it has to be a certain minimum width and depth to be counted in this private open space. And so there's actually more on site, but those are the square footages that we can count. So, Madam Chair, board members, I've probably gone too quick, but I would just say to you, this has been carefully thought of. I think our density is fully appropriate. I think this is high quality. It's ownership based, and I think it is sustainable. And we think it's the right place for this type of housing to support the great type of businesses that are happening in this area. So I'd be happy to answer any questions. Our team is here, where all of us are happy to answer any questions. With that, I don't have anything else. Thank you, board members.
Thank you very much, Mr. Anderson. Any questions of staff or the applicant or amongst ourselves, or is someone ready to make a motion?
Well, I guess just amongst ourselves.
We'll call you
and-
back up if
I
needed.
have one more if I could. Yes, there will be an HOA. I know someone's going to ask about that. There absolutely will, and it will regulate all of these, architectural maintenance issues. I'm sorry for adding that in.
That's okay, thank you.
Just, my opinion, I think it has come a long way from the first time we saw it. But I'm still of the opinion, and Reese, you know that I don't change my opinion too often, so I still have concerns about the sustainability of this project. I have concerns of the impact that it's going to provide to beyond the city itself. Concerned with that our SEPTED, we didn't get any feedback from our crime prevention folks as far as design. Worried about, the service calls, about the code compliance issues. I'm worried about those kind of things. And so just for me, I can't support it. Not that you haven't done leaps and bounds over where you were before, but just because based on the sustainability of a development like this, I think of the cluster homes that Cardin did. Now I'm dating myself, back in the 80s. And I watched those kind of developments, and it was kind of a cool trend and something different. But I've seen just my time with the city, I've seen a lot of the decline and a lot of problems that have come about with that. Not that necessarily this development would do that or have those same issues, but there's a potential that it could. And so for that reason, I can't support it, but that's just me personally. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Yeah, I can make comments. I'm excited to see this back. I think some great progress on behalf of the team. There's a lot here that's changed, a lot that's The important items I think we were concerned about have been addressed before, and I think most specifically for me and for the group, it seemed like the general plan was a big concern, and I'm pleased to see that council agrees that this use is appropriate here. And as it relates to more or less what I think of what's gone on since the last time, I'm a fan of it. I'm in favor of it. I think we've come a long ways, and I think it is a sustainable. I personally think it's a sustainable piece that includes the type of amenities that people, you know, they'll choose to purchase here based on what's around them and their access, and I think it's great. I think ultimately it will do well here. Yeah.
Thank you. I echo my vice chairman's comments. I think it's come a long way, and I like the amenities a lot. I think that makes a big difference for me. So, Board Member Sarkisian?
I agree. I'm really, I was kind of rooting for it the first time, but I'm really happy to see that the density is still there. That's still a different housing product. I would be really disappointed if it came back as a single-family detached. I don't think that's appropriate here. I think given what is going on around that area and the employment and the medical and all those different things going on, I think this definitely serves that need of a different home buyer and user. And I'm really happy to see it come back and what you did. So I'm for it.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay, is there a motion on the table? Anyone?
Yeah, I'd be happy to make a motion.
Okay.
I think we're going to involve the plat as well, if that
Yes.
sounds right with everybody. Okay, I motion that we approve item 4A, case ZON 18-00067, District 6, 9,500 through 9,800 blocks of East Hampton Avenue, located north of the US 60 Superstition Freeway and west of Crisman Road, approximately 33 acres. This is rezoning from NC-BIZ, NC-PAD, and PEP-PAD CUP to RM2 PAD and site plan review. And this request will allow for a single residential subdivision, and staff's recommendations, approval with conditions, as well as I recommend that we approve the associated preliminary plat, item 5A, Bella Encanto.
Okay, thank you for that motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, everyone please vote.
Oh, he's absent.
Oh, so Board Member Crockett recused himself, so yes, okay. Okay, go ahead, everybody.
Knew it.
Okay, wow. 3 ayes and 3 nays. Interesting. Looks like our legal counsel there will have some words of advice, words of wisdom.
Madam Chair, board members, so the code requires that in order for it to move forward, pass, it would require a majority vote. So a 3-3 vote is not a majority vote, so it wouldn't pass with a recommendation of approval.
But it still moves forward to city council.
It
Just
still
without a
moves forward to
recommend- yeah, okay.
city council, that's correct.
Okay. Mr. Anderson? Yes, please.
Madam Chair, members of the board, thank you just for that. If there's a specific question that one of you on the nay side has that I can answer, I'd be glad to. But if not, we're happy to take this vote from the commission, which we know is essentially a denial, a procedural denial, and move forward to the council. So if there is something that you might have, please, but I don't want to belabor the point and try to talk you into something. I know I'm not going to change board member Allen's mind, but if you, board member Boyle or Villanueva Saucedo, have any questions, please let me answer them now. But if not, we're ready to move forward to the council.
It looks like the lack of words means.
No questions at all, please.
Yeah.
Seeing the dog parks on there. It's the same thing that I echoed before, really. Just my personal experience with this housing product,
Yeah.
concerns with some of the deviations that you're still requesting. Love the amenities, really do. Again, just concerns about long-term sustainability, given the type of product and the deviations that you're asking for.
Yes, well, next time you'll get 2 dog parks.
I'll hold you to that.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, board members. We sure appreciate your time this evening. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you. Good night. Okay, unless there's any other business, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. the
So
meeting.
moved.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, everybody vote, please.
I'm trying to, I promise.
Board Member Crockett's going to run up
Really
here.
want out, let us vote.
How about we'll just do
All in
it?
favor.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Let us go.
I've got to run, I've got to get to the door and go to swim.
Oh, fun. At least she's in the evening and not in the morning.